Hello friends, welcome back. In this tutorial, we'll learn how to use a data exploratory library. It's called Pandas profiling. It's kind of like the Pandas described method, but it's much better because it can provide much more information. For this tutorial, we'll be using Jupyter Notebook, which is also recommended by the Pandas profiling official documentation. The best practice here is that we first create a virtual environment and then we install all the required libraries into that virtual environment and run our code from there. If you want to know how to use a virtual environment with the Jupyter Notebook, I also have a tutorial for that and link in the description below. If you decide not to use a virtual environment and just install this library to your system-wide Python, that's also okay. I will be installing the Pandas profiling library into the virtual environment that I created and activated here. So I'm just gonna go ahead and pip install Pandas profiling, and I'm also going to install Plotly just because I want to use a dataset from there. You don't have to install Plotly if you don't want to use that dataset. So the installation is done and we're going to go back to the Jupyter Notebook. So we're going to import the Plotly dataset. And from the Pandas profiling library, we'll be importing this object called profile report. This is our dataset, and if we check the first 5 rows, we'll see that we have country, continent, year, and life expectancy, population, GDP for each country. So let's put the data frame into Pandas profiling to generate a report. And the title here is optional. You can name it whatever you want. Then, because we want to show the profiling report inside the Jupyter Notebook, so that's why we add this to Notebook iframe. And once we run this, in a few seconds, it's going to generate the profiling report for our data. So this is the profiling report, and as we can see, there are a few sections: overview, variables, interactions, correlations, missing values, and sample. And this overview basically just gives a very high-level overview of the dataset, including the number of variables, meaning columns. So I have 8 columns or 8 variables inside this data frame, and the number of observations or the number of rows. And if we go to the variables section, these are the columns, for example, country, continent, year, etc. And this section also shows the number of distinct values for that variable and also the number of observations for each value. So here, for example, we have 624 entries for the continent Africa. For each of the variables, we can toggle detail to do a deeper dive into a specific data column. So here, for example, I'm looking at life expectancy column, and as you can see in the toggle details, it shows the minimum, median, and maximum values for the life expectancy for all the countries. And of course, there are some other statistics on the side. This tab shows a histogram distribution for all the age. And moving on to the interactions. The interactions section is a quick data visualization. So here we select the year, which means the x-axis. And for this one, if we choose life expectancy, and that's gonna put the life expectancy data to the y-axis. And here we can see how one variable affect another. So basically this is showing from year 1950 to year 2000. So people are living longer. The correlation section shows a correlation matrix with several different correlation calculations, and if that's something interests you, definitely pay more attention to this tab. And the missing values here just highlight the number of missing values or the number of null values for each column. And apparently here we don't have any missing values because all these columns are showing the complete 1704 entries. And the last section, samples, shows the first and last 10 rows basically of the data as sample. So after viewing this report, we should have a pretty good understanding of the data we have, especially something like what kind of data types. For example, we have 3 categorical. We also have 5 other column stats numbers. And also by viewing the variable section, we'll be able to understand things like the minimum, maximum, the average values of each data column. And in case that you need to import a very large dataset, there's an argument that we can use to reduce the time used to generate the report. And that is in this profile report function, we just need to add minimum equal to true and that will make the report generation much quicker. And by doing this minimum equal to true, Pandas profiling didn't calculate everything that it used to calculate before. So for example, here we only have overview and variable sections. And in case you don't want to use the Jupyter Notebook environment, that's also okay. We can use any Python IDE to create a profiling report. And after creating that report, we can just save this report as a web page or HTML file, and we can view that file afterwards. So to do that, we just need to call the profile.toFile, and we just need to put in the path name for where we want to save this report to, and make sure that the file ends with .html. So let's run this. Once it's done saving the report, and we can open it from our folder. So essentially this is the same report that we saw in the Jupyter Notebook. All right, I hope you learned something today, and if you enjoyed the video, please smash the like button. It's going to help the channel a lot and also keep me motivated to create more tutorials like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.